Hello and welcome to part 3 of the blockchain course. Very exciting part. We're going to talk about development. Finally, we're going to talk about development on blockchain, and we've got quite a massive journey ahead of us. So let's look at the plan of attack, how we're going to tackle all of these tutorials. So in this section, we will learn the following. Number one, what is Ethereum? A quick overview of what the whole general concept behind Ethereum is. It's very exciting, it's very powerful, and changing the world already as we speak. Then we'll talk about what is a smart contract, and we'll find out how they are used in blockchains and what exactly they mean for developers. Then we'll talk about decentralized applications on blockchains, how applications can just exist on a blockchain rather than on a centralized server, and what that means again in the terms of development of these applications and programming them. We'll talk about Ethereum virtual machine and gas, so how this infrastructure of Ethereum actually works and what's the purpose of Ether at the end of the day, and that it's not just a cryptocurrency, it's not actually intended to be a cryptocurrency, how these programs that we can write on blockchain, how these applications that we can develop, how they're actually, what the economy is behind it, how they can run and at the same time not overload the network and be efficient and things like that. Then we'll talk about decentralized autonomous organizations, and that's an interesting tutorial about how organizations might run in the future in a completely decentralized manner, in fact in a completely autonomous manner where they're just running. There's not many humans operating organizations, and we'll see how that is possible with the help of blockchain and Ethereum. Then we'll talk about the DAO Attack, an interesting episode that happened in the life of Ethereum when there was a massive hack and lots of millions of dollars were stolen. So we'll talk about that and what implications that had on the network and how they recovered from that. Then we'll talk about soft and hard forks, what that means for a blockchain network in general. We'll look at some examples of that. There'll be 2 parts to this tutorial, to this topic. The second tutorial is quite advanced, so feel free to skip it. It's a long tutorial. I think it's over 15 minutes long, and it is quite advanced. Feel free to skip it. That's just the actual theory behind soft and hard forks and how they work. But even the first part of that tutorial is sufficient to understand in a general sense how those things work. Then we'll talk about initial coin offerings. So slowly we're getting into the more financial aspects of blockchain projects, which are also important to consider and keep in mind when you are developing something in the world of blockchain, or where you're working on a blockchain application, because this is kind of like the end game of what you're aiming for. And also we'll have a look at some examples. So we'll talk about initial coin offerings and how they work and how they're different to IPOs or initial public offerings. Then we'll have an ICO case study, a hypothetical case study, to show us even better how an ICO would work and what benefits it would bring and what kind of economy it would create for the project. Then we'll talk about blockchain startups. We'll have a look at a couple of startups. We'll have a look at least 3 examples of startups in the space of blockchain that I personally find interesting, the ideas behind them. And bear in mind, in none of these tutorials we're talking about investment advice or financial advice. This is more for educational purposes and for understanding where to get ideas from, how to find those good projects that are using blockchain in a way that makes sense. And we'll specifically talk about white papers, the importance of white papers, where to find them, and what they mean for blockchain projects and what they mean for you as a developer or as a professional that is going to be using blockchain in the future. And finally, we'll conclude by talking about blockchain and Web 3.0, what role blockchain will most likely play in Web 3.0, or is speculated to play in the Web 3.0 that's coming our way in the next couple of years. So there we go. That's our plan for this section. As you can see, quite a lot of tutorials to tackle. It's all going to be fun and lots of different information. I'm very, very excited to jump straight into it. So without further ado, let's dive into Ethereum. And I look forward to seeing you on the next tutorial. Until then, enjoy blockchains.